Guys, next week might be the greatest Tower of God chapter we ever get. And I'm gonna get into detail why. But before then, hit that sub button because I've been going crazy with these chapter reviews, very long ones, and this is gonna be no different because we got a lot to talk about. So let's get into it. Arie, Han, and luslec getting into a scuffle, which really wasn't even a scuffle, a complete negative. Like luslec, he did not pull out a black hook, which we don't even know if it's still relevant at this point because we've been shown that blog posts are kind of irrelevant and not real. So he may have not even have it. It may not even be a thing. It also could be a thing though where at this point in his career, he may have not achieved the black hook. So we don't actually know about that about luslec. But all we know is that he is no match right now to where he currently is. The first thing that Arie Han says is very interesting, and he says, "Is Arlen okay?" And shout out to Zenu because Zenu actually put it in my brain that this is what the event was about. Because this event is also going to come back to this event, but this event is where they decide to stop climbing. Zahar is establishing the new system for the tower. I think, and I'm in line with Zenu here, Zahar proposed to Arlen. I also would like to believe that Arlen reveals that she's pregnant. And that's kind of the reason why I'm thinking that Arie Han may have asked if she's okay. Because something had to happen to her for him to particularly single her out. So maybe the traumatics of the event and the arguments and everything is what kind of made him ask if she's okay. It also could be just like the proposal, since it went so horribly wrong and they all split up as friends. Maybe Arlen was like really distressed and upset. There's a number of ways that you can interpret this, but I'll go into detail about why this kind of falls into my theory about the emotions being removed, but we got a lot to cover before we get there, right? So, luslec's not hearing it. It got nothing to do with you. Mind your business. And Arie Han goes to say, well, you're here to pick up manwha's, right? Like, first of all, that's reckless. And we get to kind of see a little bit of luslec's, early character, that he was a really reckless person because Arie Han kind of says, like, you've always been this way. And it kind of goes into like what we said during the live stream last week, where it would be a real self-deletion move to send the luslec into a place like this when there's 5 great warriors. But it turns out that this is just luslec and manwha's move. They're choosing to do this. I don't doubt that Arlen and V may know about it, but luslec is doing it on his own. So as this is going forward, he says that this sucks because I'm going to lose another friend. This is a very sad situation. I'll get into the details about that. Let me just get all Arie Han said out. So he says it's sad that manwha is leaving, and he's also saying take her away. She's a free person. Give Arlen and V my best, even though my heart may not reach them. And then luslec goes on to say like what? Like, you guys are the ones that left. Like, what are you saying? And especially after you did that. So what is that? Well, to me, you guys, I know that is them removing the emotions from their characters. But we got to get into detail of everything what Arie Han said because it kind of plays into my whole theory. Now, the reason why he says that, his heart may not reach them, and we get a little speech bubble from Christian there where he says, what it means is that Arlen and V may not interpret him wishing them the best as heartfelt or sincere. And the reason why I say that, and so to me, the reason why they say that's probably why they'll feel like that, is because they watched this whole thing with the emotions being removed. So I imagine that a part of becoming rulers of the tower was having their emotions removed. And I can see there being a huge issue with this because, one, at this point, they're already immortal. So, guys, for you to understand, there are only 2 things that make you human: your ability to die and your emotions. If you can't die and you don't have emotions, and I won't say all the emotions because obviously some of them have all like their emotions attached, but some emotions being removed from you, meaning like, it could be compassion, it could be humility, it could be empathy. these are what I'm assuming some of the emotions that could have been removed from them. But losing this would make you a monster. It really would. Because imagine not having empathy for beings that are weaker than you. Like, imagine somebody with power, right? Let's just say a president or a commander in chief of war. If they didn't have humility or compassion, they would just start wars and just slaughter people and not care or feel anything about it. So this is kind of the same concept here, where I imagine that V, who also wanted to keep climbing, and then Zahar possibly telling the crew like, look, you have to lose this to become a true ruler of the tower. I want my friends to be true rulers of the tower. You have to sacrifice this to get this. And I can imagine them saying like, no, like at that point we'll become monsters. But we all believe that there's some kind of ploy or some type of conversation that was had for Zahar to even convince everybody to do that. We don't know about that yet. But I imagine the proposal is a big part of that, meaning like, him proposing to Arlen when Arlen has clearly been with V. Also, who I believe she's pregnant at this point. It could just have been like a real situation where the emotions thing and then Arlen being pregnant is really what caused the split between the two, and also obviously climbing the tower. So that just goes on to say with somebody like Arie Hahn. Arie Hahn is giving his best to V and Arlen because they're still somebody that they spent thousands of years with, guys. Like, they still have their memories of climbing the tower. The memories aren't gone. The emotions are gone. So it's the same concept as, you work with somebody and you don't have to love or like the person you work with, but y'all respectful. And if you spent years and years with this person, well, when they finally leave or get a new job or get promoted, you're going to give them your best. So I imagine it's that type of thing going on there. And so also when he says that, it's very sad that I'm losing friend by friend, he doesn't say that he feels sad. He said that it's sad. So you can say that it's a sad situation of something happened and not necessarily feel that it's feel sad about it. You understand what I'm saying? So like, let's just say you see a homeless person on the street. To be real about it, you don't necessarily feel sad about it when you see it. You think it's a sad thing though. So that's how I interpret this entire thing, right? So the whole thing happens where Arie Hahn lets him go, and Luslec's pretty salty that he couldn't do anything, which he should have expected. But he's allowed to take Amweez away, and now that's basically how it ends for them. So we get a flip to Trom, Gustang, Quadrado, and Ed, where they're still having a conversation, and they're talking about Enkidu at this point. And Trom seems here, it's really confusing, and you can interpret this whole conversation a couple different ways. Trom seems to me to have forgotten that Enkidu is not human. Because he goes on to say that, oh yeah, he has that ability. And when he says this, I interpret it as that Enkidu, he forgot that Enkidu can become or control people. And at that point, the last thing that we had heard from Trom in the previous chapter was that he wants to control Amweez if he can. So I'm thinking that Trom is in a dark space where he's starting to think like, well, if Amweez is gonna leave, I don't want her to leave. But Enkidu can control her. Enkidu can control humans. Enkidu has that ability to control humans. This is an ability that Trom likely wants to have or wishes that he could have. So I'm thinking, Trom is actually going to think about having Amweez controlled by Enkidu, which is nuts. Or even have him copy her. This is all nuts if this is actually his thought process, but this is my interpretation. But there's also a possibility. Has Trom referred to Enkidu as a he? I'm not actually sure about that, guys. Like, is that necessarily true? Now, you guys can fact check me if you want, if he's referred to Enkidu as a he, but I don't even know if that's necessarily true. And he says that, oh yeah, he has that ability. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean he's talking about Enkidu, does it? Now, that's following the line that you believe that he means Enkidu. But if he's not talking about Enkidu, then who is he talking about? I don't want to reach too hard. That could be Zahar that he's referring to. Like, it seems like he's thinking about somebody who can control humans. Now, again, Enkidu has that ability, but I don't know if he ever referred to him as that. So if I'm reaching there, I'm reaching. But let's move on. But the alarms get raised for the intruder, which is luslec, of course, and it flashes over to Amweez, and who, Lee Rang says that, they're here to pick you up, and, Amweez asks for assistance, but Lee wants her to go say bye because Trom has a tender heart, but she ain't trying to do that. So we see luslec running through the hallway, and he eventually gets hemmed up by Trom immediately. Trom finds Enkidu and tells Enkidu, like, hey, can you do me a favor and can you become luslec? Now, I don't know what his objective is, and you guys can stop here and give me your thoughts on this. What is Trom's objective here by having Enkidu become luslec? Because, like, okay, if you ignored the whole time that she was in contact with somebody, do you not know that that's Arlen and B? Like, they kind of had that conversation last week at the table, but I don't know what he would do. Like, would he go there to confront them? Would he want to fight them? Would he want to, take her back from them? Like, I don't get what his objective is, but you guys let me know what you think here. So with that being said, we see Edwin running through the hallway looking like Killua with the lightning behind him, and Lee Rang, stops him and says, I haven't seen Amweez. He goes the other way, and, she basically says to Amweez that, yeah, like, I've already permeated this place with my scent. It's kind of amazing that they can, sense her Shensu, throughout the building, like the Great Warriors, but she's able to hide it by spreading her scent, which, is a part of the Yeon flame, right? You can imagine that maybe she can heat her body, because heat spreads scent. If you guys didn't know that, like, that's why, you spray cologne and perfume, like, on your pulse points, because your pulse points create heat. So, maybe she's able to heat her body up to a point where she could spread her scent all over the castle. That's an amazing ability to do, power to have. But we head over to Amweez's room, which really feels like a birdcage room when you step into it. But she goes on, to say, I can't tell Trom bye because if I look in his eyes, I'm gonna falter, and I get that from her. So, she thanks Lee Rang and tells her, like, look, we're going to be enemies after this. And Lee Rang has this whole episode where these flames come out. They're really, really cool. She says, I can't believe that you're going to go against us. Like, do you really think you can do that? And then she goes in to say, we've become people who can destroy oceans and mountains and kill thousands of people and not give a damn. What does that mean to me, guys? You know what that means. That means that they have no emotion. Like, they don't feel anything with killing these people. You can kill thousands of people and not feel anything. You're a tyrant, okay? And that's how a lot of the people, that's why revolutionaries exist now. They view the great warriors as tyrants, because, again, what makes you a tyrant? What makes you a monster? Being unkillable, which is being immortal, and not having your emotions. Now, again, they don't have all their emotions removed, but they do have some. So, we'll find the details about that later, of course, as I say it again. But she's saying that, if we don't care about anything, I don't want to become something I don't care about, because she goes on to say, like, this is all for us becoming rulers, and she's scared. She's scared to change because she's already changed so much. Well, what do you guys think caused the first change? The immortality contract, becoming unkillable, because when you become unkillable, you do unhuman things, meaning, like, oh, I'm not saying they would do this, but you would stab yourself, and, like, that's an inhuman thing. You could stab yourself and not die. Like, oh, I can't die. You're jumping off of buildings, hitting the ground. I can't die. I'm not saying they were being that insane about it, but again, it brings on the inhumanity out of them. And if they lost humility as an emotion, then yeah, that's GG for them. Like, they would become monsters. So, Amweez apologizes to her, and they have a moment where Lee Rang has some character development. Like, she basically used to be a delicate person, and it seems like, I guess, losing Amweez is kind of like, something that brought that side of her out. And she just, had a moment where she became a woman and she needs to push forward. So, they left each other, understanding they're going to be enemies again one day. And yeah, it was a nice scene. Then Enkidu comes in dressed as, luslec, dressed as, but he's luslec, and Amweez is giving off this completely different energy because she's about to be with her, her friends again. Not that they're not friends with them, but her true friends who want to climb the tower. And again, if you're following my theory that Amweez is Max Steph creation, not necessarily a normal human, then you know that I say that her objective is to climb the tower. That's her whole goal as Icarus. So, That's why she's showing this different side, this different vigor when she's talking to this Enkidu luslec version. And she also confirms that Luslec has always been a reckless person. So again, that's a part of his personality trait. They hop on the stork, and Enkidu gets the feeling of uncontrollable emotion to want to murder her. And why? Because Enkidu and Mwise both love Trom, but there's a contradiction there. One wants to stay with him to forever, to be with him, and the other one wants to get away from the version of him that he will become forever. So I love that dynamic between the two because they're complete opposites, but this is what leads to Amwee's death, and you can kind of tell where this is leading to. And the chapter ends with Trom watching them kind of fly off. Now, what happens next, right, guys? Does Trom pull up with the other great warriors to, basically go take her back, or to confront Arlen and V for like a plot of stealing her, or what happens? I don't know. But there is one thing I do know, guys. We're gonna get an Arlen and V reveal. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I am not going to be in the Discord next Sunday. I am not going to be on Monday. If we're getting an Arlen and V review, I'm going to freak the fuck out. And I want to do a live stream for that. So I think I will, meaning I'm going to stay off all socials and everything else. And I'll do a live stream, guys, if that's actually going to happen. Now, if I get on stream and it doesn't happen, I'll be pretty goddamn salty, okay? I'll be salty as fuck. But I'm doing a live stream for next week's chapter because, again, this might be the biggest chapter ever. I imagined, and I said earlier that I thought this flashback would be 5 chapters, so this would be chapter 5. It could go longer, but if this is it, I want to do it live, okay? So, yeah, chapter is a 8 out of 10, guys. Give me your thoughts, predictions, of course, per usual. Discord link below. Watch my old content. Love you guys forever. Peace.